Are you a fan of horror movies?
Necronomicon Ex Mortis, the Book of the Dead.
What about cult classics?
Your move, creep.
If you are, you'll love Shocking Things. Please search for us on all the major podcasting platforms. To see our social media and a direct link to our podcast, please go to anchor.fm/shockingthings.
What is going on, everybody? This is the PWZ podcast. Tonight I have a very special guest in the Director of Operations of Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, Sgt Murray. How are you, sir?
Rick, how are you, brother? Good to finally get this thing going after 8 months or something like that.
I know. I know.
We've been trying to figure this out.
It's been insane. You know, the pandemic does not help whatsoever. You know, and kids. You know, there's also children and traveling and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, man, it's been a crazy 18, 20 months to say the least. You know.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you, obviously we're going to talk about professional wrestling and your career in professional wrestling. And basically I want to start from the beginning. How did you start or get interested in professional wrestling as a kid, basically?
I'm old. I'll be 52 this year. So my earliest recollection of watching professional wrestling was with my Uncle Jimmy in New Jersey.
Okay.
Where I was born, and I was like probably 8 or 9, and remember him watching it, and it was right on the cusp of Vince hitting that stride in the 80s.
Right.
And I remember like old, like Backlund was like the beginning, and you were like, wow, this is neat, and you get into it. And then it progressed, and then like you get in like to the early 80s, and then Snuka's hitting, and Hogan's hitting, and all these guys are hitting in the WWF, and Vince's show was on, and like you're watching this at 11 o'clock at night or midnight it was, I think, on Saturday nights on WOR, So I mean, you're getting this, you're like, wow, this is amazing. And the first time I saw live professional wrestling, I was 13 or 14. And we went with the Boy Scouts to the Catholic Youth Center in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
All right.
That was a hotbed. That was a stop a lot. And that was the first time I saw Snuka live. That was the first time I saw Backlund live. And then you're hooked.
Yes.
And then you're in. And, I think like the next week, my cousin came up from New Jersey because we lived in Pennsylvania. And my cousin came up from New Jersey, my cousin Stacy, and she came up, and I remember we pulled our mattresses outside, and we lived in this old farmhouse, and there was a chicken coop there, and I used to jump off this chicken coop thinking I was Jimmy Snuka and splash the bejesus out of her. And to this day, I still will not live that down.
That's hilarious. I have a somewhat similar story that I don't think I've ever shared here on this podcast. I mean, my sister used to, be interested in wrestle. You know what I mean? We all used to do that as kids. And her first obsession with professional wrestling when she was into it was Jimmy Snuka. And she dove off the couch, and I was, whatever. And I moved out of the way and basically hit her head. And then just this huge egg developed on her head, and then it earned her the nickname for many years called Egghead.
Wow. Yeah, man. But yeah, so that was how I got into it. And
Yeah.
It would be so crazy that, we'll go back to where I started, but it would be so crazy that it comes full circle that I'm wrestling for Mancini and Roma. When I saw these guys in Scranton in like
Right.
86, 87, and it would be so nuts that now you flash forward from 87 to 2016, 2015, and I'm working for PAPW and I'm wrestling for these two cats that I saw when I was a kid, and not saying okay they're W. I remembered their names. It wasn't
Right.
like it was just something like, oh yeah, they wrestled for then. Oh yeah, and you go back at the interwebs or you get your WWE encyclopedia out and you look it up. It's like, no, I remember those names. They stuck in my head for something. And I don't know if you call it karma or fate or whatever, but there it was, and I got one of the greatest opportunities of my life, even though my career was short, because I didn't start wrestling until I was 44.
Really?
And, yeah, my wife, how I got into it was my wife bought me a fantasy camp at ECPW in New Jersey, Gino Caruso's.
Gino Caruso. Yeah. I met him. I met him about 30 years ago, 25 years ago. And that guy was awesome. He was working for the Saboldis at the time, if I remember correctly.
Yep. And how I got in with him was my wife is my wife's a PA, and one of her patients was the character of the Punisher, Al Nastemsky, who was big up here in Connecticut. And my wife came home one day. She goes, "You're never gonna believe it." And then she told me, and I'm like, "I know the name, but I don't remember. The character's not clicking in my head."
Right. Yep.
So again, you go look at it, it's like, "Oh, I know who that guy is." Yeah. And she wanted him to teach me how to wrestle, and he's like, "Yeah, I can't." Not that he couldn't do it. He's like, you want to learn. So she set this whole thing up. Pun went down there with me, and he kind of took me under his wing. And that's how it started. It was supposed to be a 1-day, 3-hour fantasy camp. And they liked the character, the corrector, my original character so much. They're like, "Hey man, you want to bring out Crazy Ivan?" Like,
I remember him. I remember that guy.
And I said, "Yeah, man, it's cool." Well, you get up there, and lo and behold, who's in the locker room that night but Jimmy Snuka? And I'm dumbfounded.
Right.
I'm like, wow, this is okay. It's okay. Granted, Jimmy was up in years, but come on, it's friggin' Jimmy Snuka. I mean, it's
right.
not.
Oh yeah.
It's not Joe Schmuckatelli that did 2 years in friggin', Maine, in an indie shop. It's like Jimmy Snuka, And I went up to him and I said, "Hey, Mr. Snuka," I said, "I'd like to shake your hand. I mean, I've been a friend of yours since I was a little kid," and just gushed for 2 minutes and then shut my mouth. And that was it. And I did my work with Ivan. Then they kept calling me back. And then the next year, Gino would come and work for Jay Picarillo.
Okay.
And they did the shows at the Greek Orthodox High School over in Woodbridge.
Is that Fairfield or Woodbridge? Fairfield. Okay. Yep.
And who's there the next year but Jimmy Snuka? And I said, "Hey man," again, I learned all the etiquette. Al taught me all the etiquette. Shake hands, shut up, sit in the corner, don't speak unless you're spoken to. You got to put all your bravado at the door and just become humble. And I'm like, okay, because now you're talking about a 44-year-old kid getting to live his dream out, And my life up to this point is pretty good. I'm a corrections officer. I've done some really neat things in corrections, and I've had a good career. I've had 2 kids. I'm pretty set in the stuff I've done in my life. It's been pretty dope. Now you're letting me be a professional wrestler. Okay, where do I sign that paper? And I went up to Jimmy and I said, "Hey, Mr. Snuka, I don't know if you remember me from last year." He goes, "I remember you, brother. You're the corrector. I remember you. You punished us for him." And I'm like, this is not happening, you know, and then that was it. And then unfortunately, shortly thereafter, you know, Jimmy got sick and he passed away. But that's how I got into it, through Gino and ECPW, and then just working the shows for Picarillo, you know, and those guys.
Was Snooker still traveling with the Metal Maniac at that point, or was that
Yes.
way? Yes.
Him and Andrew Anderson. Yep.
Yep. I had the Metal Maniac on about a year and a half ago, and literally that interview went 4 hours long, and it could have kept going. He still wanted to talk more, and I was like, "Listen, like, we got it." By the time we ended, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, so
super nice guy though.
Oh yeah, super cool, and
Yeah.
he's got a ton of stories, ton of great stories, and tons of great Jimmy stories as well.
Yeah, he was really good to me the few times that I worked for Gino, and then when Punisher passed away, Gino and Andrew Anderson and the Maniac came up, and I think it was like the day of Jimmy's funeral was the day of Punisher's service, and Anderson and I kept in touch. Gino and I kept in touch, but I had never not heard from, but I always saw the Metal Maniac at shows. He came up to me and goes, "Hey, corrector, how are you?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, these guys know who I am." I'm like, "Okay, this is pretty cool." I mean, and believe me, I'm not blowing my own horn. I am not that guy.
Right.
But it's like, if you left that much of an impression, if I left that much of an impression on you, that's pretty cool. So I took it for what it was worth, and then just ran with it. So
yeah, it feels good. You know what I mean? Like somebody recognizes you like that, especially guys at that level. You know.
Yeah,
so.
they ain't gotta say anything to me. I mean, they don't have to say a word to me, look at me, even breathe in my direction, and that was pretty cool that they did that. So that was, again, you take it for what it's worth, and you run with it, and just be humble about it, and then accept it and enjoy it.
So when did you get into the whole Sergeant Murray thing? That's influenced by your military career, correct? You were in the Air Force. In the Air Force.
I was in the Air Force. I was in the Gulf War. I was 4 years. I was a cop. And I was in from 89 to 93. And we were going to a show up in Massachusetts. And Roma was doing a signing and got a few of us on the show. And it was him and Holiday. We were on the truck. We were in my truck driving up. They said, "Hey, we got an idea for your character." I'm like, "All right." And I didn't know if they wanted to tweak it up or do something different. And they go, "We're going to change your character." And I'm like, "All right." And I said, "What are we going to do?" And you're going to be Sergeant Murray. You're going to be your Air Force. I said, "No, absolutely not. Not doing it. Not doing it." He said, "Why not?" And again, you don't say no to Roma very often, but at this, I said no to him. And I said, "Boss," I said, I don't want to make a mockery of my character.
Okay. I
don't want to make it a parody of what I really did. I said, I don't, not that I've done anything crazy, but I don't talk about it. It was just something that I did. I'm part of that generation towards the tail end that, you went into service or you went to college. I went into service, did what I did, got out, got a job, got married, had kids, and that was it. He said, "No, we're not going to do that." He goes, "We'll think." He goes, "Think about it." Well, maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes went by, and we were talking about other stuff. And I said, "I'm not wearing a singlet." And he looked at me. I'm driving. I said, "I'm not wearing a singlet." He goes, "That's it?" I said, "Yeah, I'll listen to what you guys say, but I'm not wearing a singlet." I said, "If I'm doing it, I'm wearing BDUs. I'm wearing my camouflage."
Right.
He goes, "Well, I thought that's what you'd wear anyway, but okay." And then him and Holiday started talking about the character and doing the thing. And I said, "All right." And we got thinking about it and brainstorming. And I did that show. That was my last show as the corrector. And I was like, wow, this is really my last show as this character. And we're going to turn it around. I said, okay. And, we did pictures and, my first picture was kind of like, and I was like, kind of like trying to be like a Goldberg, you know, like fight, kill type of guy. And it looked a lot scarier than it should have on the poster. And so again, you know, you got to tweak things.
Right.
So then, you know, we came out, we tried to figure out music, and that's when we got Madison Rising's version of the national anthem, and then we cut it up and clipped it around.
Okay.
And we figured out the perfect times to walk in, and we practiced it. And you know, Rome is really smart. I mean, he knows, and I always said we got to get a shirt that says "Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me" on the front, and said "I'm always right" on the back, and it would be Paul Roma, like a quote, because 99.9% of the time he's dead nuts on.
Wow.
So the character came out, and then I was like, we gotta do something. Then I'm in. I'm like, okay, we gotta do something to make it good. And then that's when we figured out the confetti cannons and strapping the confetti cannon onto the flag. And then I would do the confetti cannon when I came out. And then he goes, nope, from now on you do it when you win. I said, but he goes, trust me. And he was right. You know, we put the confetti cannons on. We keep the flag in the corner. And then if I win, you know, get going, boom, hit the flag, hit the cannon, crowd goes nuts. Bad guy rolls out, walk around the ring, point everybody, and then you're done. And it's like, it really is the simplest 15 minutes in wrestling, and that's including the entrance and the exit. Because I don't got good gas. As much as I would train, I don't. And, you know, Bully Ray said it best: get in, get on, get off, get out. And it makes perfect sense. And yeah, so that's how the Sarge came to be, and it's Sgt Murray, and then we tweaked it, and then it's the Sarge, and then just the Sarge just stuck. And I mean, and it was even funnier at my job, because I was at Bridgeport at the time at the jail, and dudes would come see me wrestle, and it'd be like, Sarge, and it would be just really weird. So, but again, you adapt to it. And then you got to get used to the real goofy stuff, like you're in the supermarket or you're in Walmart and people came to the show and then they see you and they're like, Sarge, and I'm like, oh boy, this is really awkward. And then you gotta, you know, and I'm a nice person. I'm really not a bad guy, but you're just awkward because you just want to go to Walmart or you want to Target. But yeah, that's the Sarge, man. That's how we came to be, and I love him for it. I mean, it worked. It worked. It was simple, primitive, yet effective. And what more do you really need unless you can fly like the young guys, like, you know, the Miracle Generation, or those guys, or, you know, Holiday. You know, you're younger like Holiday, you can build yourself up. I mean, I knew my shelf life was really short.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't have any qualms of that. I knew I would I figured I'd wrestle till I was 50, 51, and I'd be done. And little did I know that I was going to be done earlier than that because of, you know, the COVID and then the complications after. But, you know, I can't really be upset about what I did because I had a really good time and I had a really cool run. And not a lot of people can say they were a professional wrestler for a time. Not a lot of people can say they were a 2-time United States champ for a time. I can check those off the old box and be pretty happy about it.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. One of the things you said, you know, you talk about not flying and stuff like that, but I always felt like less is more when it comes to professional wrestling. And I don't think not to brag on the Miracle Generation, I think there's some really talented kids, and that's a style. That's a style that people get attracted to, and I do like. You know, for the most part, I like them, and I think they're very exciting, and some of them have really good potential to become really big stars in professional wrestling. But I've always thought like a really good technical match, like less is more. and it will work out, and it tells more of a story, and is definitely more exciting in professional wrestling than watching a guy flip flop
Yeah.
all over the ring or onto the floor through tables and all that other stuff.
Yeah, and I get that, and I agree. You know, especially for a big guy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, come on, I'm not doing a moonsault like Brock Lesnar, but Brock Lesnar not doing the moonsault like Brock Lesnar did 20 years ago either.
It's going to land on his face, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's a little more top heavy than he needs to be. But, you know, I credit to some of my moves to some of the bigger guys that were a high flyer, weren't like Sting, like my finisher. That's Scorpion Death Drop.
Right.
I was a huge Sting. I was always a huge Sting fan.
Me too.
You know,
Yeah.
then we put the spear in there for just giggles, and it worked. So we kept the spear, Goldberg. You know, the one move that I did a couple times, especially with this kid named MIT. You might have heard of him.
I saw that. I think yesterday or the day before. I was doing a little bit of research, trying to take a little bit of notes. I saw those matches the other day.
Yeah, you might have heard of that kid. I did that move Taker does, cross the ring and then come up with the big boot and blast him. You know, one of the few times I get my leg up that high, but I stretch real good for it. But you know, it was real simple. You know, it'd be body slam, death drop.
Right.
You know, drop a headbutt. You know, stinger splash in the corner. You know, nothing crazy. You know, so less is more with a character like mine. It's get in, destroy, leave. Kind of like the military. Get in, destroy, leave.
Right.
You know.
Right.
You know, I if this would have kept going, I had a new T-shirt idea. You know, and again, you never say never, so I won't say what it was, but it was gonna be pretty dope. And it was a saying that the pilots would use in the Air Force, and I just took it. I said, screw it, I'm taking it. And it worked. But yeah, I agree with less is more, and Roma, he says you don't gotta do a lot. You just gotta do these 4 or 5 moves and hit the cannon and get out of there.
Right. One of the things is that I started coming around to the shows probably right before you I think you got injured or you took time off, etc. Because
the concussion, probably the concussion in 19.
Yeah, it was probably around there. I can tell you exactly when the first show that I went to. I'd been out of wrestling for probably about a good 2, 3, 4 years, maybe at the most. I had divorced my first wife, and I just kind of it's not that I lost interest in it. I just did not have time for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To sit and watch professional wrestling as I was trying to. I don't know. You know, people go through stuff when that kind of stuff happens.
I bet I know.
So, and when I met my second wife, her son was into WWE, and that kind of sparked my interest in getting into wrestling. You know, every kid at 7 years old is into WWE for the most part, and so, and then my chance meeting Paul Roma at a gas station on my way to work one morning brought me into Paradise Alley, becoming a huge fan. You know, I guess he stops at that gas station in the morning, whatever. So, you know, him inviting me down after talking to him for about a good 5-10 minutes, I went down a couple weeks later and had the time of my life. I was like, I haven't been to an indie show in so long. You know what I mean? And it was just, I ran into Big Daddy, who I knew previously, and kind of, started talking a lot, right after that again. And it was just a lot of fun to go to shows. And I didn't go to every show in the beginning. For the first, I went every other show or whatever. And then all of a sudden, once I just started going to every single show after a while.
Yeah.
So I missed very few since I started going. But one of the things is I was saying is that I remember it was, I guess they were building up for a big show. And you had gotten the House of Pain disqualified, if you remember correctly. And I think they turned heel on their next show that you guys were building up for.
Yeah.
So does that make sense? Is that around the time of your concussion?
Yeah, that was probably in late 18, early 19. But yeah, that because that's when I lost the belt to Williams.
You were the champion at the time.
Yeah, I had
When
the
I
U.S.
came in.
belt. Yeah, the U.S.
Yeah.
strap at the time, and that's when I mentioned it at the last show. That's when Nick super kicked me. Nick Payne super kicked me in the jaw, and Williams took the cover and took the belt, and that was that.
Right.
But
So,
yeah.
So what happened with the concussion? That's not how you got it, is it?
No, I got my concussion at my real job.
Gotcha.
At the facility, we had do use of force, and my forehead hit the pavement at a rapid rate of speed, and I was out for like 3 seconds, and which in turn I have really bad migraines. I have a 3 every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like it never goes away, but I've just learned to live with it. I have medication I take for it, and I've learned to live with it. And we were getting me back. We were coming back, and then COVID hit, and then everything got shut down, and then I got it, and then I was out of work for 3 weeks,
Jeez.
and I felt like I had a rhino sitting on my chest the first 7 days.
I've known a few people that have gotten it, and they
Yeah.
just say it's no joke. Whatever they're talking on TV, sometimes it's really hard to listen to the news and believe everything that
Yeah.
you see in the news. I'm not one of those guys that's just like, oh my God, I'm going to panic, because it's social media and news outlets do not help very well.
No, and working in a prison,
right.
Working in a prison is like working in a petri dish. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
Right.
It's a matter of when you're going to get something, or when you're going to get assaulted, or when something's going to happen to you. So, I went back to work, and then 6 weeks after I went back to work, I was in Pennsylvania visiting my daughter for her birthday, and I was at a friend's house, and I forget, I was doing something real simple. Oh, my friend's son got a new gun, and he wanted to show it to me. So I said, all right. So like everything, you open the slide and make sure it's unloaded. It's just what you do in law enforcement, because you're just, mind is worked. Go to slide back, and I had no strength to do it. And I'm like, this is really weird. I said, wow, this thing's brand new. It won't move. It takes nothing to push a slide back on a firearm. I couldn't do it. I started getting lightheaded, started losing my breath, started throwing up, and they called an ambulance, and they had to take me to the hospital. And I had a severe arrhythmia, which was V tachycardia, which my heart rate was like 246 beats a minute.
Jeez.
Which is fast. And they had to do this thing, it's called a cardioversion to me, which they put the defibrillator on you, and they shock you. You're not awake for it, though, usually.
Okay.
I looked at the kid, hit the button. I was awake for this. Don't ever do that. It's one of the most uncomfortable things in the world. I was laying in the gurney, and I basically lawn chaired myself, hit myself in the head with my knees, and in turn, 5 days later, I had to have a defibrillator pacemaker put in me.
Jeez.
So I got this real sweet DVD VCR combo now, and it's the only way to look at it, man. It's like you can't get upset.
I don't mean to laugh. The way you described it.
That's why I do that, because you know, it's like I could have died. In theory, I should have died. They told me that, which is really weird. And now they fixed it. So wanted to make a comeback, tried to make a comeback, didn't work out too well. So that's when I put the video out and said, "Yeah, man, I'm done." And I really felt at peace with it, because I don't get me wrong, I still miss the guys. I mean, it sounds corny, but you miss the smell of the locker room with 20 sweaty guys. You do. But it's that brotherhood, it's that camaraderie,
right?
Doing that. You know, it's just like it's like in corrections. Nobody wants to smell pepper spray. Nobody wants to. But it's that spray that's that, oh, I'm alive now. I can smell this. Okay, we're good. We're going in. All right, let's do it. Let's go. So, and you know who would be great? Big Daddy. that was his shoot job, and so that's why
Yes. Yep.
that's how he and I have a really close connection with that. And so like I said, yeah, man, I tried. It didn't work out, and but I'm good with it. You know, I miss it. Like we did, like when we had the show last week. You know, got to come out and set up the match for Diesel Mania 5 with HOP and the Haven on that ladder tag team match, and it felt good to be in there. Kind of had to reintroduce myself. You know, some people might have forgot me or didn't know, and you know, but it kind of felt good that people remembered me. You know, because I think that's a wrestler's worst fear, that they're gonna forget you.
But you really haven't been gone that long. I mean,
But
you know, because
these guys have been wrestling like all the time. Like until
Right.
once they said you could work, they were down there and they were putting 25-person shows on at the school, and they were running up in Rhode Island.
Right. Yep.
And I was jealous, and I was really jealous because I wanted in. And like I said, I talked to my heart doctor. I said, "Hey man, I want to do this." He goes, "All right, you can pass the stress test. You're good." And I worked everything I could to pass that stress test, and I did. It just, when I got into the ring, it just didn't go right. It didn't feel right. And my last official wrestling was with Sunset Steve Garcia. And
was this did this actually take place, or was it like a workout?
We were training.
Okay, because I was gonna say I don't remember.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a match. It was, we were training. We were down at the school. And,
Okay.
Steve, I wrestled him, worked him a little bit. We wanted to work. He wanted to work with me. He said he would, and that was it. And we were talking about it at the show on 2 weeks ago. He says, "How was your last like kind of match?" I said, "Yeah, you were, dude." I said, "And I love you for it, man, because you didn't mind getting in there with an old dude and rusty and trying to beat the kinks out of it.
Trying to help you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly."
And I think that's another kid that I think is very good, and he's been only wrestling a very short time. Has he been wrestling over a year? That's the thing. I don't know if he...
Probably a little over, maybe 13 months.
Okay.
14 months. But the thing is, he listens.
Yeah.
He takes direction really, really well. Mm-hmm. And that's the cool thing about him. He listens, and he takes direction, and he'll work on it and work on it and work on it till it's right. And once it's right, he'll keep working on it. And that's what's cool about him. And that's why, I love them young kids down there. There's a good bunch of kids down there.
Yeah.
Of course, Flash, I love him like a son. Kylon, just a good kid. I mean, he likes to have fun in the shows. And the Haven, I remember them dudes coming to see us, and they'd carry the tag team belts in all our shows. And they'd be like, "I'm gonna be there one day," and then all of a sudden walked in training one day, and there they were. And
that's like, awesome. Yeah.
Like, "Ain't you the kids with the belt?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." Let's go, man. Let's have some fun. And yeah, so I mean, that bunch right there, they're a good bunch of dudes, and they listen. Mm-hmm. And it's just cool to see them having fun and doing it and listening. That's the biggest thing. They listen to Roma, they listen to Mancini, and they listen to Battle. They listen to Williams. They listen to Jym. And I know we're gonna segment it, but they listen. But Jym,
we're gonna get into that. Yeah.
Jym, just to say it, Jym loved helping them young kids, and he would work with them, and he would work them and work with them, and he would make sure that they got it and respected it.
No, I know we were gonna bring it up anyways, but I guess Jym Anderson, you were very close with, and he passed recently, just in the last couple of weeks. And that dude, he was a very good dude. I really enjoyed having him on the podcast. Kind of had to be 3 months ago, and I was scheduled to have him on again. We were kind of working it out because he had been teaming with Ryan Frost and other groups. Yeah. So we were going to have them both on, I had Frost on. He recommended Frost, which he told Frost to contact me to come on the show, and
Yep.
I ended up having just a really good hour and a half conversation with Frost for the podcast. And then and then Jim was like, "Hey, we should both come on." I said, "No problem. Let's set it up." And we were kind of in the middle of setting up, and then one night we got that call, or Big Daddy got the call while me and him were doing an episode together about Big Jim passing, and it was very hard to continue the episode when we ended it within 5 minutes because it was right before the Rumble. We just went through the rundown of the matches that were coming up and then ended it. And then it's an incredible loss to the Northeast wrestling scene because that guy was, he was just a great human being. And it's funny, it's like he and I never talked about professional wrestling when we talked. We always talked about music because we had very similar tastes in music. So, and so that's, I don't know where else to go with that. But he was just a fun guy to talk to.
I'll go with it.
He was close to a lot of people, and he was very helpful to a lot of people.
My little big brother.
Right.
Easiest way to put it. When I came to PAPW, when we met, I'll tell you where we met the first day. I went on Fogman's show.
Okay. And the center ring for anybody.
Center ring, yeah. Yep. And I went on that show, and Jade was on there with, I forget that other little girl's name, and we were cutting promos for the show that we were doing in Bridgeport for the Iceman.
I did see it while doing research for this episode. I did actually come across those promos.
Yeah. And I was like, man, who's that big dude? And they're like, oh, it's Big Jym Anderson. I'm like, all right. And again, just polite, doing what you're supposed to do in the business. Yeah. I introduced myself to him, and I had to learn for a long time. You don't, give your work and you're not your shoot name. But for some reason, I gave him my shoot name, and he gave me his, and it was like, all right, and just kind of hit it off. And the next thing I know, I'm talking to Mancini. He's telling me to come to the school. I said, yeah, I don't know about that because I heard Rome was like a terrorist. And he says, why does everybody say that? And everybody looked at each other like, really? But I did. I went down. And Jim was the one who said, hey, man, come on down. It's not, he's good. So I listened to Mario, and I showed up there on a Wednesday night and went up and introduced myself and just sat in the corner and kept my mouth shut. He goes, can you work? I said, well, yeah. And there's working and there's Roma's working. And if you can see where my hands are.
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, I've heard stories, not from, in the past.
And you know what?
He's a perfectionist, yes. And he wants this guy. And not for nothing, his name is going to be on you.
And that's what I was about to say. His name is on. That's his stamp. And if anybody's coming out of his school and they say, who trained you? Paul Roma. Okay. Number one, they're going to probably give you a gig. And number two, you better work like Paul Roma trained.
Paul Roma did. I mean, not for nothing. He was and I've said this millions of times on this show, that Roma was probably the most underrated wrestler of his era. And that guy should have, I mean, granted, he went a little bit further in WCW with winning the tag titles a few times, but that dude should have, had a really good singles run, because that dude, like, I would see him in matches all the time, and I always thought he was like fantastic. He was probably like super quick, his agility, the way he could jump off the ropes, or jump on the ropes. And, he did that leap where he just climb up the turnbuckle and then leap off.
Like a goddamn spider monkey, he'd run up the
ring. That dude is like, I've said that
up until he got sick.
Mm-hmm.
And here, you want to know what's really funny? I had my thing. 2 weeks later, he got sick. That's
really?
How we were apart and getting our shit done. But anyway, when I got there, Roma would have us run up the ropes, and he taught us how to do it. My big 275-pound ass at the time, I was doing that, and that was like my thing. Like, I got to do this right. I got to nail this down, and I would do it. And but that was Roma. That's what he wanted. But So Jim's there too, and so now I start working out with Jim because he's the next biggest guy to me.
Right.
I mean, Grant House of Pain, but I mean, and this is no knock, they're shorter than I am. So the next guy that I can look in the eye, legit, is either Dre, Big Daddy Dre, or Jim. Now, granted, Jim's 6'3", so I mean, I'm not looking him in the eye, but stature-wise, he's the next guy I stack up into. So,
Right.
okay. Well, you want to talk about two gorillas fighting over a goddamn Snickers bar? It's just like it was. I'll tell you a great story about Jim. We were working out in the ring, doing our thing, and something just made me trust him right away. You know what I mean? Like you get that feeling from somebody, and there was something about Jim that made you trust him, and not like, give him like your social security number, trust him, but like working in the ring. So like, actually,
Okay.
we're kind of giving him your social security number because like this dude could kill me. I mean, he's 330 pounds. He could literally kill somebody. So we were working a spot, and Jim goes, "I'm a suplex him." Like, all right, cool. Now, my only thing in my head, I said, just don't suplex me next to the edge of the ring. I don't want to hit the hard part of the ring. Being rookie, now all over again. I got you, kid. Don't worry about it. So we're working, and he kicks me, and he goes, "You ready?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he gives me the Iggy, and up I go. Now, I'm 5'11", he's 6'3", so now there's like 15 feet in the air, and he comes down and drops me. It hit the way it did. Not that it was hard, but it hit the way it did. He literally, can I cuss on here?
Absolutely.
Okay. He literally knocked the shit out of me. Where I landed, I rolled out of the ring into the bathroom and literally had to go to the bathroom. He knocked the shit clean out of me. I'm like,
Wow.
I've been in corrections at that time, it was like 25 years. Been in a war, all that. I've never had the shit knocked out of me until that day.
Wow.
He literally knocked it out of me. And that was like the running joke forever at the school. Like, sorry, you got the shit knocked out of me. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Literally. And that even brought us closer. And at one point he was living in West Haven and I was over here in Brantford, so we would hook up all the time and I'd pick him up and go to gigs, and he'd help me load the truck and do stuff. So we really, really, really got close. And when I got my concussion, he was like one of the first people I called and told him what happened. And he was at my house like 3 days later, checking on me. And always called me like every few days, making sure I was awake. And then, when I got COVID, he wouldn't quit calling me. I mean, he was there. And then when my heart thing happened, he was a mess. And when I came home, he's like, "When can I come over?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know, because I didn't want to, piss off my wife." And she's like, "He can come over, So he came over, and as big as he was, he gave me the softest hug in the world. And it was just like, all right, everything's going to be okay. And he called and check on me all the time. And we call each other and check on each other. But during that 6 weeks I was home healing from this, he'd probably call me every other day on his lunch break or in the afternoon, just checking in, seeing what's going on. And yeah. And then it was kind of funny because the night before he died, I was at the school. We were getting ready for the show, and all of a sudden I hear, "What are you doing, Milk Dud?" And I knew who it was because that was his nickname for me. He always called me Milk Dud. And I turned around and he was there, and we always gave each other a big hug and a kiss. You know, and him being Italian, it worked perfect.
I was going to say that's an Italian thing.
Yeah,
Growing up Italian myself,
yeah,
you know.
and I worked with a lot of Italian dudes in when I was in the federal system for all those years. So I mean, it kind of rubs off on you. And we caught up, and I was doing stuff with the ring and talking to the young guys. I said, "All right," I said, I gotta go to bed." And it was about what time is it? Yeah, it was it was probably about 9 o'clock, like when we started.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "All right," and I said, "I'll talk to you later." He goes, "Yep," and I gave him a hug. I said, "Man, you look good." I said, "Good to see you." He's like, "Thanks, buddy." He goes, "You working?" I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "It's coming off." He goes, "You look great." I said, "Thanks." I said, "I'm trying." I said, "I gotta get skinny like you." That was always our joke. And I gave him another hug and a kiss. I said, "I love you." He goes, "I love you too, brother. I'll talk to you later." I said, "All right." And then Tuesday night, Roma called me and he goes, "You sitting down?" I said, "Yeah, why? What's up?" He said, "I got some bad news," and I thought maybe it was something to do with the show. And that's when he told me. And
Yeah.
it hurt.
I know.
It hurts. It still, you know, it's been a couple weeks. I love that dude. I mean, it's and not. I mean, not even thinking twice about it. I love that guy, and it was very couple days. I just was really bad.
No,
For lack of a better term, I was really blah. And but I remember the day after I went to work and then I came home and I was really kind of upset. And then I looked at the clock and it was like 2:30. I said, "Well, come on, let's go to the gym," because he'd be yelling at me if you didn't. Went to the gym, cried in the gym while I was at the gym. People thought I was sweating. I was crying, and worked out. And you know that they put that picture up of me and him in the show. I gave that to Flash. They did they did the tribute for him, which came out really, really good.
I thought that was an amazing tribute. It was very emotional. You know, Mario's speech was just, it was incredibly emotional. You know,
Yeah.
that thing. I actually clipped it and posted it to my Instagram as well because it was just, it's just a huge loss. Not just as a friend, you know. He was just very important to a lot of people.
He was, and
You know,
that leads me back to what we were talking about with the young kids. Is like he'd go down there on Mondays with the young kids, all these young kids now,
yeah,
and he'd work with them. And a couple of them young boys are tall. They're tall like him, not big like him, but they're tall like him.
yeah.
And he would work with them, say, "Look, this is how you got to work your height and your advantage and your gimmick and do your thing." And again, they listened, which is just absolutely amazing, absolutely incredible. And yeah, that was, I say it was because it happened 2 weeks ago, but that's gonna linger for me for a while because I guess I'm older now and it you know it just hurts a little bit more. And but that's my guy right there. I love that dude.
I know as it gets older, it's I'm not laughing, but it's like
No, you're right. It is.
it's one of the, as we get older, it's for it's difficult when we start losing our friends and brothers. I had a friend that had a stroke, and he's only a couple of years. He's we're about the same age. He's about maybe a year or so older than me, but he ended up in a coma after a stroke, and he was just completely different. You know what I mean? After that, and it's hard at this age because this is the age where things like this start to happen to us as adults, and it's very sad. But it's hard to think about, and especially someone that was like very close.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
and you probably saw the picture. It's me and him at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
It was one day we went to the gym one day. He's like, "Come on, let's go to the gym, let's go work out." I'm like, "All right, cool, let's go." So I went and picked him up, went to the gym. I said, "Hey, let's take this picture, send it to Roma." So we took that picture, we cheesed it up. You know, we made this that big cheesy ass smile head.
Right.
We said, "Hey, your kids are doing what you were told to do," and or something along those lines. And Roma sent a face back like, "Great, get out of there now. You hurt yourselves," you know. And but yeah, that's that picture that's probably going up on a wall somewhere because that was just that was my partner right there. He's a good dude.
That's awesome.
Miss that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's still fresh for a lot of people. You know, it just happened a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah, and like I was saying earlier, I wrestle in MIT. You know, I know he wasn't here very long, but he's coming back. That's my son.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, that's my son. And him and Jim worked with him a lot too. And it hit him hard, because he wasn't around. He moved back home to Pennsylvania, so it hit him a little, dinged him up a little bit too. But Jack, he called me and checked on me. He's been checking on me, making sure I'm good, But yeah. Yep, that's a dude that a lot of people are gonna miss for all the right reasons. You know what I mean? There, he was a good, big as he was. He was a beautiful, gentle soul. He was a big dude. I mean,
as big as he was, it's they called him the gentle giant. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Many people kept referring to him as a gentle giant, and
Yep.
he always had a smile, and he was always, every time he saw me sitting in the crowd at a show, he could be on the other side. He literally would make his way across just to reach out and come and stand next to me for a few minutes, just catch up, say hello. And, I always had somebody with me, like if I had a friend with me, he was always very polite and shook his hand, be like, "Hey man, nice to meet you." He was just that kind of a guy.
Yeah.
He was just that nice,
Yep. He's the one I won my first belt from.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because you did win your United States title from Big Jym Anderson.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did, and that's probably what makes it even a little more. Now winning it makes it more bittersweet because when we talked, when this was happening, it was like, okay, we're gonna go. He's like, "Yep." I said, "Okay," and then we just left it.
Right.
And got up to the show, and we got ready to go. And I said, "We're good." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Come on, let's have some fun." I said, "All right, brother." And went out there, and it just felt just so. It might have looked rough, but it really, in my mind, it felt like it was glass. It felt good. And having McCready up there as part of like going to those little minions, that really added a little bit into it too. So, but it was good. And I really don't think I would have wanted to win it from anybody else. And like I said, now it things the way they are, it makes it just.
It feels a little more special, maybe.
Really dope. Really,
yeah.
really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It works. It works.
Segue into something else, before we're getting a little too emotional here.
Yeah.
I hate to say because I am as well, because
no, absolutely,
it's still,
brother. I know we talked right after we
talked right after. Yeah.
And we both got it. So yeah.
I remember the day it happened. I'm sorry. I know I said it was, but like I said, I was recording with Big Daddy, and Roma tried to call him, and then Mario tried to call him like 80 times,
Yeah.
And then eventually, Big Daddy left the show for about 10 minutes and then joined back in. We never revealed the news on the show.
Yep.
He texted to me beforehand, and then he said, "Bring me back in," and we're going to end the show now. We lost a friend, yada, yada. And then, I did a little tribute to him on the show, probably like the next episode. Which I don't think I think I waited until the day after. I did basically a Rumble in Paradise review with Marcel Williams, who's my new Sunday night partner. And and I'm having a lot of fun. I forgot where I was going with this, honestly.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Keep going.
Yeah, just keep going.
Just keep running.
So
It's okay.
yeah, it's all right. But we talked the next day because
Yeah.
once I never wanted to reveal it, but I was on social media shortly after that, and I was just like, shit, people already know, because I'm just like, people, I saw a lot of New England regulars
Yeah.
that were at shows between here and Mass and Rhode Island posting, oh, we lost a friend, yada yada, and I'm just like, shit, people already know. For about the good 15 minutes, nobody was saying the name.
Yeah.
I got a text message from somebody who's like, hey man, can I call you? I'm like, sure, why not? This was like 11 something at night, and there's another podcaster that was very very good to the New England scene, or the Northeast, I should say, and we ended up talking about an hour and a half about this big Jym. So people knew, you know what I mean, and like you said, it's like people were posting it all over the place, and I was trying to make it, I tried to wait until enough people posted it, but then I was just like, I ended up taking my post down for obvious reasons after a while. I did not want to be one of those people that was the first person, honestly, because like I actually knew the person rather than, so I was like, I'm going to wait until there's like a million. So I waited until like 2:00 the next afternoon when I saw a million. There was an article that came out where they actually.
You sent me that. I got that.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal article too, really.
Greg Oliver from Slam Wrestling is a tremendous dude, and he actually quoted the interview that I did with Jym in that. So I thought that was kind of like special in a way as well. You know what I mean? I felt like that's part of the interviews in professional wrestling history in a way. I don't know how to say it, but you know what I mean.
It was a nice tip of the hat to you.
Yeah. So, anyways, I don't know where to go next, but you
No, we again we we talked. You and I had talked.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just a matter of long story short, they didn't want to get out until everybody was notified.
Until the family made it aware.
And that's why I did call a few people and say, hey, if you don't mind, this is the deal. And amazingly, people respected it, and they did. And that made me feel really good that people respected Jym that way.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. And then, once we as a company put it out, because he was ours. And then it was like, okay.
Once I saw you guys post it, Paradise Alley posted, and I was like, all right, it's safe to post it again, to take my post and repost it.
Exactly. So. And we as a company, and this is where I can talk in somewhat of official capacity, we as a company appreciated that from you, from the other folks, because they understood, they got it. It wasn't like who can get it first. It was like they got what the gist of it was. So it was cool. And but yeah, winning the belt from him was really neat because it was like a David versus Goliath thing. He's this guy, I'm a little dude, but we got to fight it. And
you're not really that little. You're not really that little. Maybe like a few inches shorter, though. I mean,
it's kind of hard not to feel tiny next to him.
I get you.
Like that picture. If you go back and look at that picture, and I don't know if you can fill it in, like when you edit this, you put that picture up.
Absolutely.
And you look at him when we got our arms, like we're both like flexing from opposite sides. His arm to my arm. It looks like my arm is atrophied in a cast next to his, like this redwood tree trunk he's got hanging off his shoulder. It's just like, good God. It's like, man, I wish I was that big. It's like that'll never happen. But golly, it's like, and for as big as he was with that big ass arm, he'd throw a clothesline. It was just like the sweetest thing in the world. He'd hit that clothesline, man, and he'd let you do all the work. But it was
And he wrestled this final match against Flash at a blood, sweat, and tears show. Was it just a couple days before? Probably 3 or 4 days before.
It was Sunday because it was Saturday.
Yeah.
I texted him Sunday, said, dude, you look great. He goes, yeah, Flash took care of me, and ha ha. I said, no, you look really good, brother. You look good. He's like, thanks. And then again, the next 3 days we were that. But yeah, I had texted him the night that night after. I said, dude, because I watched the whole match online.
Me too. Yeah.
And they had a ball. They had a shit ton of fun, man. It was great.
And I really liked what they're doing with, the new character that they were creating with the Cure and, Lucas Chase's minions, so to speak, with him with the mask coming in as like that guy. I really liked what they were doing.
Yeah, it was,
he was like built at like this, and I'm just like, at first, the first time they saw it, and then I saw him right after. I was like, oh, it's that mysterious masked man. They just looked at me like, what the hell are you talking about? So they just called him James. I was like, it was pretty obvious who it was with all the tattoos and stuff.
Yeah, he's kind of hard to miss in a crowd.
Yeah, right.
It's like throwing a polar bear in a pack full of grizzlies. He's gonna stick out.
Right.
But yeah. Speaking of minions, goddamn Gibbs, man. Turn on.
I'm Bloodsaw, right? So I think this is something that's going to be really good for Gibbs, to be honest with you. I think it really is. I like what he's been doing so far. I think the potential's there. You know what I mean? As far as like, I think it's opening him up, as working as a heel.
Yeah, it is, and he's my other little brother, and I mean that legit. He's my little brother, and again, he's got all the tools in the toolbox. It's just
some grasping something.
Yeah, and Roma's again, but he listens though.
Mm-hmm.
And if Roma says something, he's like, okay. And then he corrects course. Boom, and he's in. And that's what he needs. And I think that's what you need to do, is a little tweak. And I think this character is I think this little shift is gonna be good for him. I'm looking forward to it.
I think so. I think it's developing very, very good.
Yeah.
At last week's Alley Fights, I don't know if you've seen the footage. I posted it. Kincaid posted it. We both filmed it. So, there's a lot of like the way that the character is developing is very good, and the way that he works the crowd, and I think it's definitely an improvement from the previous character that he had.
Yeah, and that worked. It worked for what it was. But yeah. Where they're going with this is pretty good, I gotta say, and I'm not upset about it. I mean, as Sgt Murray upset about Zachariah Gibbs drinking the Kool-Aid of Lucas Chase, yeah, I'm upset about it.
I'm gonna tell you, like, people argue with me at the shows because I think the cure is Lucas Chase. He's going to fix professional wrestling. There's a lot wrong with professional wrestling, and I don't know, man. That's all. He's here to fix it. He's here to fix it.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's just going to be the approach.
Yeah. I mean, I'll sit next to somebody that decides that they want to argue with me. It's like, I can't believe you're cheering him. I'm like, I can't believe you're booing him. I'm like, he's here to fix what is wrong with this industry. So.
Yep. You're right.
So,
You're right.
So there's a couple people that give me trouble for that at the shows, and I was like, I don't care.
These are the same folks that hated Bray Wyatt.
Right. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to professional wrestling. I don't like all the bullshit, I guess, could speak. I don't know how to say it. Like all the ridiculous stuff, you know what I mean? The childish stuff, the comedy, whether it's comedy, flip-flop stuff.
You want a beginning, a middle, and end. You want a storyline.
Yeah.
You want something that's going to keep your attention, not like throwing smoke and mirrors and flash pots and pyro. And, you want pyro, watch Goldberg. I mean, that worked for that character.
I mean, my favorite wrestler of all time is Arn Anderson. Okay.
Yeah. Not everybody watching. So you can't throw pyro on everybody.
Right.
But yeah, Arn Anderson, speaking of Arn Anderson, that was Jim's.
Yes, we talked about that on the show. That's where he took his name from, being an Anderson fan.
Yep.
So, yep. Yeah.
That's right.
And I don't know, when it comes to like professional wrestling, like I said, I'm a traditionalist. I grew up watching, the first thing that I ever experienced was WWF in 1984.
Yeah.
The first person I ever saw on television as a professional watching professional wrestling was Roddy Piper. I instantly was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Okay. This guy's freaking nuts. And I think it was him and where he did he pile drive Rick McGraw or whatever? And then people thought that he killed him.
Yeah, he pile drive. He hit him
Right.
with the pile driver, and then like a year later, he smashes Jimmy Snuka with a coconut.
Right. So everybody thought this guy was nuts.
Yeah.
And then it was like when I discovered the NWA, I was like, oh my God, this stuff is so great because it was presented with a lot of realism. So, comparing that to a lot of things that have changed over the years in professional wrestling, that there's a lot of theatrics, I guess you'd say, that I don't necessarily approve of when it comes to wrestling. Okay, we'll call it. Yeah. Yeah.
So. No, because I'm not saying that. Somebody else said that.
I mean, the biggest promoter in the world, in the history of the business, has said that.
I love professional wrestling.
Yes, me too.
If it comes with other stuff and it makes sense, good.
That's the thing; it's got to make sense. Yeah.
When you start getting a little bit too silly,
right?
Now you're entertaining.
I mean, in the 80s, it was a little bit silly, but then in the 90s, it took a completely silliness to it that was completely, just different. And it just wasn't, a lot of this stuff does not hold up today if you go back and watch it. People love the Attitude Era. I try going back to watch it sometimes, particular shows, and I'm like, oh, it's Gold Dust and Bondage Gear. Like, this is not, this doesn't hold up. It's like, it's stuff like this that's like, I want that Owen Hart match. I want that Benoit match or whatever, It's just...
I want that Benoit Malenko match in WCW. And what was that, 96?
It's got to be around there. Yeah, 96, because I think in 95 they were still in ECW. What's that?
Yeah, I got a concussion. Can't remember my name, but I can tell you a decent match in 96. Yeah.
There's a lot I can't remember. So, but I'll remember a lot of random wrestling facts for you. Yeah. So I can't remember to take out the trash, but so
I'm with you, brother. Right alongside you.
So what's in store for Sgt Murray in the future?
Well, the future's good. We're gonna just I am the director of operations, PAPW. So let's, we'll talk Dieselmania's coming up. We got some, it's going to be a great show. Number 5. How crazy is that? That's crazy town in itself. We've had 5 Dieselmanias, all for the Michael J. D'Angelo Scholarship Fund, which is a phenomenal cause in itself. Mm-hmm. You never know where I'm going to show up. My Saturday nights are fairly open, so you never know where I'm going to be. And that's it. Am I done in the ring? Yeah.
Really?
I mean, you'll see me in the ring like talking, but
right.
Am I done in ring performing? Yeah. My waking up every day is way more important than my love of professional wrestling. I mean, and a year ago I would have never said that. A year ago I was like, okay, when are we getting back? I can go. When can I train? When I can get in the gym? When I can hit the treadmill? When we start doing shit? Now it's like, I'm good.
Wow.
I'm a grandpa now.
Oh, wow.
I got a beautiful granddaughter. I got a grandson on the way. My youngest is graduating. She's a senior in high school. She's a phenomenal basketball player. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff to look out for. My wife and I always say this, and she hates it. My wife actually likes me.
I understand, sir.
So there's a lot of stuff to be around for. So but as far as wrestling goes, I'm the director of operations. It's gonna go through me, and like I said, we got Williams and Matias coming up. We got Kylon and TJ Crawford, Dieselmania. We got the match that made the the cuckles of my body feel so warm when I got to make that tag team ladder match with the Haven and HOP, because just seeing them two get up a ladder worth the ticket and price alone.
Well, I was wondering about that. That's one thing. Once you announce that, and mind you, I was standing to your left when you had made that announcement.
You're off to my left, yeah.
And once you said that, I immediately looked up at the ceiling. I'm like, where the hell? And I was like, how are these two going to try to climb a ladder and get up there? So that's something to look forward to.
That is something to look forward to. You're going to have, Matthias and Williams. That's
going to be a great match. They have they have a huge history together. They've worked with each other many times. This is just another chapter.
And they know how to tear it down. That ladder match they had a few years back was off the chain. I'll put that up against any ladder match, sans the Hardys and Edge and Christian. But anybody else that's been in a ladder match since then, I'll put that up against anything, man. There was a lot of holy shit moments in there, and we're not right. Roman was one of the things for old school pro wrestling. You don't cuss. But god damn it, that was a barn burner, Jack. And so we got that. We got Kylon and TJ Crawford, which that's going to be a hell of a run.
Yep.
Bloodsaw
and Lucas. Yep.
That's gonna. I love Bloodsaw. I love what he does. I was really hoping at the time that I get to go after him for the US strap again, but again things just didn't work out. The Haven and HOP in that ladder match, which that should be really awesome. And it's just I think I'd be really remiss if I didn't mention what went on this weekend and what went on last weekend in professional wrestling between the NWA and AEW.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be, if you don't mention that, and take away the Gets, take away the Adam Cole, take away the Ruby Riott, take away the Ruby Soho, which I'm so glad she went there.
It's really great that she's, she was over.
Yeah, so
over. She was,
And they just snatched that right. I mean, it's like Braun Strowman. He was so over. He was in a great spot and bang, gone. It's like
that's the weird part of what's going on in the industry right now. And I guess I don't, it's really, the internet wrestling fans, they like to talk a lot of trash. So it's like they always talk bad about WWE, about people, and people jumping ship or people just getting signed to the other company, no matter which one. But it's like these people need to work. So yes, they're going to sign a contract. There's two major companies in the United States. So if somebody from WWE gets signed by AEW, God bless them. Congratulations.
I agree. I mean,
lay the hell off. Yeah.
I'm never gonna fight a man or fight with a man that's trying to put food on his table and feed his family.
Absolutely.
A la Dusty Rhodes. You're taking money. You're taking food out of my mouth. You're taking money out of my pocket. Exactly. So you know what? If I can make that money and put that food in my kid's mouth and put that money in my pocket, then why are you getting upset? Why? Because Adam Cole isn't coming out to the Undisputed Era theme with the other three guys and doing their little shtick, getting in the ring.
Yep.
And you hear the fight of the Valkyries, but then it goes into some like dope beatbox thing for Brian Danielson, which is like, okay, so you've completely changed their music, which it's gonna go without saying.
I thought that was great. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll wait.
You've changed their music. You've given them creative control over their character, and you're letting them make money.
What's wrong with that?
I'm still looking for the downside.
Yep.
And if you're that WWE purist, then you shouldn't even be watching WWE anymore. When Hogan and Hall and Nash and everybody in the '90s during the wars jumped ship and came back and jumped ship and came back. X-Pac did that like 6 times during that time.
Right.
No knock on X-Pac, but he did. I mean,
he got fired, let go from both companies and numerous times, for whatever personal reasons that he had. Yeah. But you know what? That's another part of what you said earlier. Never say never in professional wrestling because, Jeff Jarrett held up fucking Vince McMahon for what, $10,000 or such. Guess what? They brought him back a couple years back and inducted him into the Hall of Fame. So
Exactly.
never say never.
Yeah.
And
No,
Bruno
you never,
Sammartino returned for the Hall of Fame. Never
yeah,
say
never
never.
say never.
Yeah.
You know, Bret Hart and
Yep.
Shawn Michaels.
Absolutely.
Fences. Never say never.
Mhm.
So when I say, is a Sarge ever going to be in the ring again, working? Never say never. But I also have a 5 foot individual that's two rooms down that probably will use one of my firearms against me in a range of violence, and I don't want to do that. So, but no, you know, again, watching the NWA and watching AEW this past weekend was phenomenal. And then I'll even turn it and go another step, watching Roman Reigns' character develop.
Right.
That
He's killing it right now.
Dude,
Yeah.
that is a friggin' home run. And you know what? The guys that booed him, you're still mad because he's a bad guy and he's over now.
Right.
And you're still booing him. So you really don't get it. And that's fine. For all of us to get it, let us get it. And let us
It's a lot of these internet marks that don't get it. These guys, you know, and then they want to trash guys like Mike Johnson or Dave Meltzer. But those guys have been doing their business for 20 and 40 years. You know what I mean? They've been covering professional wrestling. That guy's been doing it for like 50 years.
I'm 51 years old. I found publications of wrestling magazines from the year I was born with him in it. 1969. That's insane. The only person who's been doing wrestling stuff longer than Bill Apter is Vince McMahon.
Yep.
He was born into it.
I'm gonna have to show. We're gonna have to get together one time, or one of these shows. I'm gonna have to bring I have like 2 big gigantic boxes of magazines dating from the 50s into the 80s. And I still buy them today. I buy them from auctions on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. I stop at 1991. That's my cutoff point, and I will go back and buy anything beforehand.
Yeah.
So one of these days I'm gonna have to bring them. I showed them all the Big Daddy one day. I'm just like, they're exciting to look through because it's such a great era. You know what I mean? Yeah, it is history. Yeah,
history, and that's what keeps this business going is the history of it, and you know, correcting mistakes and doing better on good stuff and doing better on bad stuff, and that's why a 44-year-old kid. He got to become a professional wrestler at 44.
That's awesome.
Because he believed in professional wrestling. He didn't believe in sports entertainment. He believed in professional wrestling.
Let me ask you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and that's that.
Let me. What did you think of the NWA event? NWA 73. Did you watch it?
I watched clips of it. I didn't watch it because I was away that weekend, but I watched clips of it. I thought it was phenomenal. I thought the girls. Before I get my head cut off, the women's division, off the chain. I love Camille Brickhouse.
She's amazing.
Camille Brickhouse since day one. I think she's a straight savage. I don't think they should have let her talk as quickly as they did.
That's part of the thing. I'm just like, if they kept her quiet, it would have been more of a savage type character.
Yeah, say she wasn't talking yet. And legit Lila Hirsch wins that, and she comes out of the crowd and just stands there, does nothing.
Yeah.
Now you've intimidated her. You put girls like Nyla Rose on notice. You put girls like Thunder Rosa on notice. Penelope Ford, all the girls in AEW, all the girls in Impact, all the girls in Ring of Honor. You put all these chicks on notice. All these girls that Mickie James invited to that invitational.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more of them than there are of the women's division in WWE. And there's a lot of great talent. And one of them that I've gotten to work with and met her a bunch of times is Deonna Purrazzo. I think she's amazing. And she worked for us a couple shows. Ran into her at a couple signings, and man, just really just a good person.
Right.
Period. You can stop there, but just as a wrestler, just great wrestler.
I remember the other day when I was at the alley fights, a couple people were like, "Hey, you watch the NWA 73?" I'm like, "I watched the NWA 73 show and I loved it. I thought it was great, with the exception of the Battle Royal. I think that could have been like a pre-show match or a dark match, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, everything else was fantastic." And then everybody was like, "What about the woman show?" I was like, I didn't watch it. And then, you know, when I got home later that night, I was like, "Ah, fuck it, everybody's asleep," you know? So let me put it on. I was like, damn, this is a great show. I think, actually, it aired the same night as Rumble in Paradise, so that's why I didn't watch it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I ended up getting, and I bought the bundle because NWA is one of those companies I truly support, because I think that
I know. I
Gorgon's,
see everything. You are always putting them up, and that's awesome.
between, I'm going to be honest, like the Paradise Alley and the NWA, the two companies I support the most. You know what I mean? And I it's just, I'd love to see some of the Paradise guys make their way to the NWA. I've actually, I've been on Twitter trying to tag you guys every time they say, who do you want to see here? Tagging various people, the House of Pain, Ref Bill, and
I tag HOP every time. Every time they put something up, I'm like, at Billy, what are you doing? Come on, man. You got a top-notch team right here, fellas. Let's get on it.
They're a great tag team, and and every time I talk to Matt Court, he always makes this point. It's like they have held gold every single place that they go. So why aren't they making their way to the NWA? That's all on Billy now, because they have tried. They have tried.
And again, taking out the super kick from hell, but they're awesome.
Yeah, they are. They're
number one. They just went over 2 years as the tag champs.
Mm-hmm.
They can work. Their continuity is phenomenal. Their timing is impeccable. They know what each other is thinking. So I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Right.
So again, this is on at Billy. This goes out in the interwebs at Billy, NWA. Come on. You're not signing, a couple of dudes, backyard wrestling. These guys are legit.
That's right. Yeah.
Every promotion they've worked for, they've held a title. And not in just there are tag champs. They've held it, they've defended it. So come on out, Billy, let's go. Time's ticking, brother.
It is.
Do the right thing.
Absolutely.
P.S. I'm a Smashing Pumpkins fan, so get that done. Anyway,
that's right, man. I grew up on them. You know what I mean? They were like my favorite band in high school. So,
I'm like the anti. No, we're not going to talk about that.
No politics on the show.
I'm the anti guy that should be listening to rap music. Let's put it that way. I'm a metalhead. Big Jim turned me on to a couple of Two Tree bands. One of them might have been Two Fisted Law, cheap plug. But I like my rock music a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's the team right there. HOP. I mean, I'm still gonna put the screws to them, but I mean, get them out of PAPW and let them go work somewhere else. But
absolutely.
But no, yeah. Those ladies are
they're phenomenal. Yeah.
And again, I get it. Your WWE is that allegedly the pinnacle.
Right.
You get there, you've made it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But now you've got other companies they might not be coming up behind you. Like, they might be in 10th place, you're in first place, but Daytona's 500 laps.
There's about 5 big companies in the United States that you can work for. I mean, 5 major companies. You got WWE,
you got AEW, you got Ring of Honor,
Impact,
NWA,
and those are like the 5 that you could probably make a career out of. Correct? Yep. You would think, essentially. I mean, come on, fellas. Like, whether it be Impact. I mean, I've seen Impact sign a lot of people that necessarily weren't worthy of signing.
Hey, look at Waves and Curls.
Dude, they made the way to AEW. They made 2 appearances. Yes.
Lucas Chase on Dark. Rick Recon on
Rick
Dark.
Recon. Who else? There's a couple others.
George Durrell, Punjabi Lion.
Yeah, absolutely. Robo. Yeah.
Robo. All these guys work for us. I worked with all them guys. Come on, man. you're signing these cats. The Graysons.
Yes.
They worked under a different name at on Dark, but I worked with them.
Mm-hmm.
And ECPW. So I mean, come on, man. You're signing dudes. Let's get it on. I
Yeah.
mean, come on. We got our guy Holiday working for MLW. That's
Yeah. Which I think is awesome because they do mention Paul Roma quite often when Holiday's on TV. So MLW is another one. I guess there's 6 major companies in the United States.
Yeah,
That's
MLW too. Yeah,
yeah.
MLW too. Yeah, I'll get a text from Holiday later. I'll get screwed up. I'll have to buy him Starbucks next time I see him or something. But,
he's a Brantfordite, right? He's a Brantfordite. Yeah, he lives in Brantford or East Haven. I got you.
But yeah, man.
Cool.
That's my take. I really like I said, I really like what they're doing with the women's divisions in all these companies. Not just AEW or NWA. All the women's divisions in all those companies are really, really coming leaps and bounds of what it was.
Growing up in the 80s, now you're only a few years older than me. Okay. I'm going to be 46 in just a month, actually.
Yeah.
So what? 5 years older than me? 6 years older than me?
Yeah.
So
I'll be 52. So I'm 6 years older than you.
Okay. So growing up in the 80s, women's wrestling was treated completely different. It was there, but it wasn't what it was today. In the 90s, WWF tried to bring it back a little bit. It faded away in probably like 89, and I think probably like 92, 93, they tried to build the women's division again, and then it tanked relatively quickly with Medusa, Bull Nakano.
And that's when Alundra Blaze went to WCW and dropped the title in the trash can.
Yeah.
There's another one. Never say never. Got her in the Hall of Fame.
That's true.
Never say never.
And she's one of my favorites. She's one of my favorites of all time. I remember watching her I remember watching her in the AWA before going into WWF, and when she came up under a different name, I was like, "What the fuck?" But that's WWE,
But listen, but like you were saying, we're going to talk about. You had Wendy Richter.
Mm-hmm.
You had Moolah.
Mm-hmm.
You had Mae Young.
You're going back to the 80s?
Yeah, and then you had
it was like guy like Leilani Kai, Judy Martin, Rockin' Robin.
Kai.
Yeah.
You had what's his name's daughter? God damn it. I just saw a thing about her. Anyway, there was like 6 women.
Yeah.
There was
that's
like
it.
6 or 8 women, and like you said, it was treated very like billet.
Mm-hmm.
They were never on a pay-per-view, never on a Raw.
I can only think of one pay-per-view match that there was a woman's match on, and that's the Royal Rumble '89, where Rockin' Robin and Judy Martin. That is it. That was if you watch that.
That's who I meant. That's what I was trying to.
As Jake Roberts' sister.
That's what I was trying to think of. Rockin' Robin.
Yep.
And so like, to see what even went from like the '90s, from the late '80s into like, the Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm.
That was even a big jump. That was even big for them. And then, of course, the Monday Night Wars with everything, and then into the 2000s.
The Divas era developed, which was kind of a joke, but But
it was a launch pad for a lot of women.
Mm-hmm. Women's wrestling today is a completely different product, and it's like in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, excuse me, women have headlined WrestleMania in the last 3 years.
I'm gonna say. Remember when they did the Evolution pay-per-view?
Yeah.
All women, the first all-women pay-per-view.
I'm surprised they haven't done another yet, but
that was your turn. Yeah. And isn't it amazing? Vince hasn't done one since, but almost every pay-per-view AEW's done in the 15 months of its existence, there's been at least 2 or 3 major women's matches.
Yep. Check out Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker headlined a Dynamite, and it was probably one of the most phenomenal matches AEW has put on.
That match was insane.
And Thunder Rosa, I'm not sure if you've heard me say it here. She's one of my favorite wrestlers in the last 2 years. Like, and I'm not just saying like women's wrestlers. I'm just saying professional wrestlers.
Yeah,
like she is up there, man,
Yeah,
for me.
she's legit, man. I mean, and
Yeah.
then you mix in that she's a legit MMA fighter too.
Yes.
So it's
Yep.
like, okay, so you're really fighting a badass. Like
She's a badass. Yeah.
Somebody would literally, she's gonna break your shit.
and Britt Baker has come a long way as well prior to that. You know what I mean? That match, I think, showed that she has a lot of talent that a lot of people probably didn't know she had prior to that.
And her mic skills improved ridiculously
Amazing.
too.
Amazing.
I think that match was her confidence builder for her to get a lot of this.
Absolutely. Going. The match that she had last night was good. Against
and being Adam Cole's girlfriend can't hurt either. Listen to all the shit talk he does. So I mean, come on.
No. Yeah. Right. It's just we had a phenomenal couple weeks of professional wrestling.
Yes.
For pay-per-view, I guess generated wise. I don't really watch a lot of regular television professional wrestling outside of the NWA. You know, that's the one that I make sure that I keep up with every Tuesday, 6:05. I told my wife, don't bother me. At 6 o'clock on Tuesdays. This is where I am.
Your like little reminders for 6:05 is like, oh shit, thanks, Rick.
Nah, man, it's like I gotta watch it. You know what I mean? I have to watch it. And
speaking of NWA, how about one for the fat guys? Trevor Murdoch is your NWA.
Hell yeah, man! As the new NWA, see, I wasn't 100% sure that was going to happen because there's always been a thing where it's like they're leading towards it and heavily pushing that it's going to happen. Then it won't happen. But it happened, and I'm very happy. And Nick,
WWE cast off.
Yep.
Other WWE cast off.
But he's got a wife and kids. You know what I mean? He's got a little boy that he's going out there working his ass off for, every week just to put food on the table. And now he's NWA World Champion. Guess what? It paid off.
Yep, absolutely.
And a student of Harley Race on top of it.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
It doesn't hurt who your daddy. It doesn't hurt who your daddy is either. But you know what? Trained by Harley Race. That's pretty much your
right. Dude, he is just. I think that match was phenomenal. I love Nick Aldis. Don't get me wrong. I think Nick Aldis is fantastic, and I had him on the show a bunch of last year sometime. It was a lot of fun to talk to him because I'm like a huge freaking NWA mark and Nick Aldis mark. So it's just just to have Trevor Murdoch, dude. It's just as the world champion now. It's just NWA is taking a different turn. You know what I mean? I don't know how long it's going to be before they have a rematch or what have you, but I'm hoping that Trevor Murdoch will hold it for a little while.
Yep, I do too. I think it's good for the company. I think it's good for the wrestling business.
Yes.
Itself in general. I think it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Do you have anything else that you want to plug or anything before we wrap it?
We'll plug Diesel Mania, baby. We got Diesel Mania coming up. September 28th, over at
it's going to be
in Woodbridge.
It's going to be recorded for Fight.
Yep, we got an alley fight too just came up on the 17th. There's an alley fight at the wrestling school too. But yeah, man, as the director of operations, as the Sarge, as a wrestling fan, just thank you for supporting us. It's always a pleasure talking to you, brother. It really is.
I appreciate that.
I'm glad after 8 months we got this figured out.
There's been so many roads, there's so many ways that it's like something has happened every time we needed to record. So,
and I appreciate letting me talk about Jym and
always
and Jym Anderson, but Jim Perella, the guy, and yeah, man, it's this has been a pleasure. It's been really, really fun, and I hope you have me back, and we'll do it again. But
I hope so, and I hope it doesn't take 8 months for the next one.
Ridiculous, man. It's like the gestational period of an elephant. It's like, come on, just get it over with. Just talk.
Let's do it.
But yeah, man, good stuff. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, brother.